underway. Let's go live to our reporter now, Samkele Maseko, who's been keeping a close eye on exactly how voting is progressing. Samkele, thank you so much for joining us now. Of course, we told our viewers just a moment ago that there were 3 provinces still to vote, but we know that process is moving fairly efficiently. Do you have an update from us on how far the process has gone by now?
Well, indeed, Joe, I've just received an update now from one of the Gauteng delegates who's just told me that they have just gone into the voting booths now to cast their votes for their preferred candidates. You'd understand that Gauteng, in its majority, has endorsed Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa to be the president of the ANC, but you've got that voice coming from Ekurhuleni in the form of Mzwandile Masina, the regional chairperson, who's endorsed Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, even though the majority of the branches in that region went for Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, but him and the REC that he leads endorsed the Deputy President. But I am now joined by Lukhona Mnguni, a political analyst, who will further unpack to us the current balance of forces, looking at what currently and what took place in plenary yesterday. Lukhona, from what you assessed with the singing by the show of force by the delegates, who do you think has the upper hand between these 2 factions of Nkosazana and Cyril Ramaphosa?
Well, one thing we have always been warned about is that the most energetic is not always the one who has the numbers. I mean, in a sitting of about 5,000 people, if 1,500 people are in a jubilant mood and they start singing and jumping up and down, you'd literally be deceived into believing that they actually have the numbers. There was a moment of rapturous singing that broke out inside plenary yesterday by the Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma supporters, which was meant psychologically, I think, to demonstrate that they've got the numbers and they can, in actual fact, hold that hall to ransom with singing if they so wish, and demonstrate again the show of strength just before the ballot box casting of the voting. Also, if you remember last night before the voting started, there was a bit of miscommunication that was going on and a bit of confusion as to whether voting is suspended, it will commence today in the morning, or it will start at last night. And again, as Xoli Mngambi said over the phone last night, that it seems as if the Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma people were saying it's now or never. We want to vote and we want to proceed with it. So was that a show of strength where they strengthened in terms of saying their numbers are here at the venue and therefore they want to proceed? Of course, all we are saying is just speculation as we wait. You know, it's like the moment of waiting. You keep on speculating, playing with scenarios. And
just on that point of delegates wanting to vote, not wanting to vote, what caused this miscommunication? Because some media houses, and if I'm not mistaken, even us, we did run that voting has been postponed to this morning. Was there a political ploy to this miscommunication?
Well, I mean, if we call it a miscommunication, then we can't attribute sinister motive to it. I mean, we all packed up and we left. I think maybe everybody was thankful to go grab some sleep. I even saw some ANC staff people saying, no, there's no voting, we're going. So I think fatigue sets in, right? Delegates are fatigued. Some had already gone to their places of rest because they were seeing that the day is almost coming to an end. So you then try and push. Confidence is won by numbers. So whenever you see an opportunity to push your numbers, you really try and say, no, comrades, let us vote, because they are still away and are still going to sleep. Maybe some are going to party or sightsee the city in the night. All of those type of things you take into consideration, because as we have been saying in the lead up to this and at the moment of this conference, that every single vote does count.
History tells us that exactly 10 years ago today, the ANC elected President Jacob Zuma in Mangaung. 10 years later, he's bowing out on the same day as president of the ANC. What would you say is the highlight of President Jacob Zuma's 10 years in the ANC's presidency, judging at the way the ANC is so fractured today?
His legacy really is one of disunity, unfortunately. It's one of embedding factionalism within the organization. It's one of making people believe that patronage networks are an incentive for gaining political power. And I think in the eve of his departure, he has tried very hard to talk a language of unity, rooting out factionalism, ill-discipline, buying of votes and all these kind of things. But he has not taken any personal responsibility to say, I mean, a person like David Mabuza, whether you like him or not, at least he has said, comrades, I participated in that thing. I know exactly how difficult it is and how much damage it causes the movement. President Zuma has not made this important leap of taking personal responsibility at shaping an ANC that he delivers 10 years later. Some people say he can't quote what Oliver Tambo said coming back from exile to say, here comrades, I deliver an ANC that is intact. He can't say this ANC is intact. It's definitely far from that.
You speak about an intact ANC. Yesterday we saw the divisions within the top echelons of the leadership in the ANC playing themselves out. Tony Yengeni coming out to the podium saying, rubbishing what the SG was saying, quoting the ANC constitution, saying conference is the supreme rule and disregarding the constitution of the ANC. Naledi Pandor saying it can't continue like it was yesterday. What does this say about the ANC and them living up to the legacy of OR Tambo?
Well, my understanding of the fracture in the ANC really in the last year or 2 years is that the most people that are highly divided is the NEC itself. The members of the NEC, the elites I call them, the elites of the ANC are the ones that are most divided, and actually they then infiltrate their own division into substructures of the NEC. So for example, I mean in KwaZulu-Natal, I always tell people that had there not been local divisions for national leaders to play into, KwaZulu-Natal would probably be much more intact today. But because of local divisions of elites there at a regional level, then the national divisions also played themselves out in that region. So what you are seeing in the ANC is a contest and a competition that is largely about leaders and how they align and realign. And this is why the Eastern Cape, I think, I don't know if it was you interviewing Stella Ndabeni much earlier in the day, and they are talking about how they are marshalling a particular perspective to branches that have already created their voice in terms of the mandate they are giving to their delegates. Here they are at conference, not talking to branches, saying that no, we are just going to tell the delegates to vote in this way. Now you can't have a situation where the ANC continues to treat its membership and delegates as voting fodder for the ends of elite leaders within the movement.
The last question I'm going to put to you, NEC members Fikile Mbalula, Zizi Kodwa, Jackson Mthembu and others have voiced out and said it publicly who they voted for. Is this entrenching divisions or is it democracy?
Well, it's democracy at play. I'm allowed to say who I'm voting for in national elections or local government elections. So on the one hand, it's democracy at play. But what I have a problem with is that it is selective democracy at play. Delegates are not allowed to talk to the media. They are not even allowed to really update about the going-ons of conference. Again, you see an ANC that is delivering much more for the elites than it is for the people that say are the nucleus of the organization and those being branch delegates.
Well, Joanne, that was Lukhona giving a very critical analysis about the state of the ANC and its organization and its leaders, saying they've got selective processes of selecting democracy in a way that suits them, and they act as if they're elitists and not allowing ordinary branch members to express their views. It also understand yesterday that in plenary, some delegates and provinces supporting Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma wanted to go with some sort of a slate or a list of additional 80 members whom they wanted to vote for. Baleka Mbete eventually made a ruling that they would deal with that separately from the nomination of the top 6. But some leaders of the ANC and the NEC like Fikile Mbalula, Jackson Mthembu and Zizi Kodwa have openly voiced out who they have voted for on Twitter. But surprisingly, Zizi Kodwa has always been mum on who he is going with, but seemingly in the early hours of this morning he could not hold it anymore and he just let it drip that he is voting for the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. If you would understand that Zizi Kodwa and Fikile Mbalula have a long-standing relationship in the Youth League and they've always fought side by side in ANC politics, it's surprising to see them on separate political divides now.
Indeed. Thank you so much for putting us in the picture there together with the analyst Lukhona Mnguni. That is Samkele Maseko.